Let's just go live.
All right, I'm starting it right now.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brian Albright. I'm the Director of Parks and Recreation for the county. I'm pleased to welcome you all. Thanks for attending this meeting, our latest in a series of public meetings on some really fantastic new recreation opportunities that are coming to Waterfront Park. This is our fourth public meeting on this project, and it's exciting because we're getting ready to actually put shovels in the ground and go to work. But we wanted to have this public meeting to walk through the final concept, to talk about timing, and to answer any of your questions. We're actually very fortunate to have with us tonight the chair of our Board of Supervisors, Nathan Fletcher, who is an active recreation enthusiast, a champion of parks, a mastermind behind many of the great things that are taking place in the county with respect to parks and recreation. So at this time, I'd like to introduce him for some introductory comments.
Thank you, Brian. Can you hear me okay? All right. Sorry, I am in transit, and I guess the wonders of Zoom, you can do it from just about anywhere. But Brian, I want to commend you. I really appreciate Jessica. I appreciate your team and all the work that has gone into this. The redesign of the Waterfront Park started from me looking out the window of my office at a piece of real estate there that I thought was a little underutilized. This side of the Waterfront Park, and I love the Waterfront Park. I love everything about it. But I said, I think there's a way we can engage more of the public and get more people outdoors, and more people coming to our park and enjoying our park. And we've done a lot of extensive outreach, and we certainly can't do everything that everyone would want in one kind of limited footprint. But I'm excited about what we're looking at coming back with the dog park, with some pickleball. Everyone loves pickleball, some basketball, a little wiffle ball, t-ball, some other exercise components and things that are there, and really excited to see this move forward. Now, I know there's a lot of folks who had a lot of good ideas. I want to give a shout out to the roller skating folks who have a powerful lobby and have made a compelling case to me for why we need more of that infrastructure. It's not going to physically fit here. We're kind of out of real estate and doing it, but I am committed to working with you all to find some more opportunities. I know it's a thing. My wife's been bugging me. She wants to do it. And so we will work with you all on that. But for what we have moving forward, I'm really excited and to really transform the other side of the waterfront park and have it be as wonderful as the play structures that are on one side. I love the chess tables we recently added, personal favorite of mine. I enjoy those. So I just want to thank everyone. I appreciate the community members. I know it'll, have some impacts on people being out there, but ultimately we want people outdoors. We want them exercising. We want them having a good time. I love our parks. I love our backcountry parks and the incredible hiking and equestrian and everything we do out there. I love our sports fields. But to be able to bring a little bit more of the county park experience to a few more people right here at our county administration center is just a wonderful thing. So excited, look forward to watching the continued engagement, continued work, and really excited to see some shovels in the ground, start moving some dirt, and can't wait to open up these new amenities to folks here in San Diego. So again, thank you for all the feedback. And if the amenity or thing you wanted didn't fit here, hey, you know what? We got a whole bunch of other county parks. Let's keep working and find a place to make sure everyone's got a place at the county of San Diego to get outdoors and do what they love and enjoy. So Brian, I'm going to kick it back to you. And again, I want to thank Brian. You got a great team. You got a great team of folks that worked hard on this, and you all really serve us admirably and well in the county of San Diego. And I just appreciate all the hard work that's gone into fulfilling something that I think is going to be great for our region. So thank you all very much for letting me join you for a few minutes to kick you off.
Thank you, Chair Fletcher. We know you are a busy man with a busy schedule. We really appreciate a few minutes from you tonight. And more importantly, your leadership on this project and many other really cool things we're doing in the parks world. So thanks again. Okay, we have a pretty expansive team of employees from our department here tonight. They'll introduce themselves in succession. First, I want to turn it over to Chelsea Jander, our fantastic senior project manager. She's going to kind of go over some ground rules and walk through the topics that we're going to cover, and then she has a brief presentation as well. And so at this time, I will kick it over to Chelsea.
Great. Thank you, Chair Fletcher and Brian, for kicking us off. As Brian mentioned, my name is Chelsea Jander, Senior Park Project Manager for Department of Parks and Rec, and I'll be your host for this evening. We're here to provide an update on the project and to bring active recreation amenities to the northeast corner of Waterfront Park. But before we do, I will review some Zoom housekeeping items before we get started. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. We're using the Zoom webinar platform, so you won't have a microphone or camera access, but you will be able to write in questions or comments using the Q&A feature. You can go to the next slide. Just click on the Q&A icon in your toolbox and type in your question. We'll respond either way directly in the answer section, or we'll do our best to address your comment in the live Q&A session at the end of the presentation. If technology troubles arise during your meeting, you can always call in and listen to the audio. A recorded version will also be available online after the presentation is complete. We'll share the links on the project webpage. Next slide. All right, if you are on a mobile device, the Q&A feature is located on the bottom right of your screen. And all right, yep, and now we're ready to move on to the next slide, which is our meeting roadmap. So we will go ahead and jump into our project updates. Here is our meeting roadmap for the evening. We just started with our welcome, and next we'll recap the scope of this effort and the timeline. After that, we will review the public engagement and survey results from early 2021 when we presented the final concept plan. Tonight, we'll focus on our next steps as we wrap up the design phase of the project. At the end, we'd love to hear any comments or questions that you may have. Let's get started with the scope of this effort. In 2019, the Board of Supervisors directed the Department of Parks and Recreation to assess active recreation opportunities for the northeast corner of Waterfront Park, shown in this image. The goal was to engage the community and host a series of public meetings to discuss the potential need for active recreation in downtown San Diego. In 2020 and 2021, we hosted 3 public meetings to engage the community and discuss the need for active recreation in the area. With the annual budget approved in June of 2021, we received $3 million to complete the design, environmental analysis, and construction of the improvements. The northeast corner of Waterfront Park is at the corner of Pacific Highway and Grape Street. This 1.5 acre area is currently used for a decorative garden and pathways, which is used significantly less than the rest of the park. The site was selected to revitalize the area and bring active recreation to Waterfront Park. Let's take a quick look at what we've accomplished so far. Our first public meeting and online survey was in January of 2020. We synthesized all of the feedback and completed draft concept plans. These were shared at our second public meeting along with our second survey in fall of 2020. We used the feedback from all of you to draft the final concept plan, which we presented in April of 2021. We are currently finalizing the construction documents, which is a more detailed design of the final concept plan. Construction documents is when detailed design decisions are made, like paving and plant material and precise measuring. We are also finalizing our environmental review, also known as CEQA. Additionally, we are in the process of seeking a coastal development permit from the California Coastal Commission. In a few slides, we'll be discussing the next steps for the project, but before we do, we will recap our public engagement review on the next slide. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at our public survey and stakeholder feedback. As we just mentioned, we engaged the community in January and October of 2020, as well as April of 2021, with a total of 118 attendees between the 3 public outreach meetings. We received 365 online survey respondents and mailed over 9,000 flyers to stakeholders to develop a concept plan that reflects all the community needs. When looking at the combined results from all the public engagement, the graphic shows the amenities from most to least preferred. We have walkways, seating, public art, basketball court, and a dog park were the top 5 most preferred amenities, which we included in the concept plan that we presented in April of 2020. Now we'll see that concept plan on the next slide. As a review, here's the final concept for the Northeast Waterfront Park. This concept was developed through the combination of public comments, site analysis, and also input from the Waterfront Park Subcommittee. Starting at the corner of Pacific Highway and Grape Street, you'll be able to enter through the ADA accessible ramp. From there, you can enter an off-leash dog area. Next to the dog park will be 2 pickleball courts and a basketball court. Below the pickleball courts will be fitness equipment, and the southwestern corner will feature a t-ball field for program play and pickup games. The area can also be used for picnicking when no games are being played. Lastly, there will be a table tennis court, which will be east of the existing restroom building. And all of the existing perimeter trees will remain, and the garden will be preserved and enhanced in areas without new recreation amenities. All right, as promised, here is a review of what the next steps are through project completion. Later this month, we will have a Board of Supervisors hearing to request authority to bid and award a construction contract for the project. If approved, we will move forward with that action and award a construction contract in early summer. Construction is anticipated to take approximately 6 months, so we plan to have a ribbon cutting at the end of the year to celebrate the completion of the park amenities. Now that wraps up our brief presentation. We wanted to have plenty of time to open up the meeting for questions. Please use the Q&A function to ask questions. Some questions might have already been answered in the chat feature. You can also share any questions or comments to me directly. My contact information is here on the slide, and we will also we also have the final concept plan and any project updates available on the project webpage. And that link is shown on the slide here.
All right, so I think we're handing it back over to me now for the Q&A session. Thanks again for folks who are sending their questions in through the Q&A panel. Just due to the number of people that are going to be on this call, it made sense to disable chat and to manage the questions this way. So we appreciate your enthusiasm and your feedback, and I will go ahead and get started. Our first comment that we received is a little bit about our plans to have a dedicated space for skating. And as a member of the development team, Chelsea, I thought you might want to speak a little bit about some of the ideas we have and some of the prioritizations we have for recreational spaces like this moving forward.
Sure thing. So for the skating space, yes, like as Chair Fletcher had mentioned in the presentation, that's something that we are looking at, and we'll continue to work together to locate the best space as why we try to accommodate all the different needs of the community and the different needs for the recreation amenities throughout the county.
All right, thank you. We had a comment about how many write-in survey results we had regarding a roller skating area. So I don't know, looking back at the chart you had of the responses and the preferred amenities, how did roller skating fit into that general survey response?
Sure. So the roller skating response, there was an other section there, and I believe I don't recall the number off the top of my head, but I'm happy to send that specific information over via email if you go ahead and send me an email requesting that. But I believe that there was a large push to get information and really request that skating rink at the second public meeting and that survey result. So that is something that we are tracking, and that's why we're also looking for an alternative space for the skating rink.
Awesome, thank you. And I imagine there are still also some policies in place at the park currently that would prohibit adding that type of amenity at Waterfront Park.
That's correct. I don't know if Joe would like to jump in and answer that one.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi. Yeah, so current rules and regulations don't allow for motorized or unmotorized wheel type devices. So that includes skateboards and bikes and inline skates at the park. So it's just not the best fit for this particular space. But like it was mentioned earlier, it's definitely an opportunity we can take advantage of to provide somewhere else in the county at one of our current parks, or maybe as a new project somewhere. So definitely taking that into consideration, just not feasible for this particular site right now.
All right, thanks, Joe. All right, we have a question from Zella. Will the dog park have AstroTurf or dirt? That's a great question. And I will hand that back over to Chelsea.
Yeah, so it will have a decomposed granite. So it will have some filtration. It'll be pretty easy to clean up after any messes. So we're looking forward to having that amenity be available.
All right, and speaking of amenities, there's a question about the baseball and t-ball field being included when it may have had a lower percentage of preference in that survey. Can you respond to that a little bit?
Sure. So we included the t-ball field as part of our concept plan and as part of the park design, based on the survey results, but also based on other factors. We took the concept plan and proposed amenities to the Waterfront Park Subcommittee, and they had some feedback and made that request because just due to the fact that there might have been other community members that may not have had access to the survey at the time and wanted to make sure that all communities were considered as part of the Active Rec Park project.
All right, thanks, Chelsea. We have a question in here. Will there be enhancements to the crosswalks on PCH and Grape? And if so, what's the timeline for that? I believe, would that fall under development for you, Chelsea, or?
I can take that one. So at this time, the crosswalks are not included as part of the scope of this project. That is part of the City of San Diego jurisdiction, and they would be the lead on improving those. However, that's something that we can just discuss with them and see if that's something that we can get elevated and prioritized.
Perfect, thank you. And I know operationally our ops team works really closely with all the neighboring jurisdictions. Waterfront Park is in kind of a unique position where we have a lot of different landowners close by. So I imagine if there are any issues that arise as a result of having these additional amenities, we'll be working closely with the city and talking through some of those workarounds to help resolve any traffic issues. All right, so and then regarding the survey one more time, how many total survey results did we receive?
It was, I believe it was 365 is what I had in my notes. So quite a few over the course of the multiple surveys that we had out.
Awesome, thank you. All right, this is a great question here. Is there a plan to increase parking availability at or around the park? Excellent question, because it is a very high traffic area. As we're all aware, we always encourage carpooling and ride sharing. I know there's some metered spots and there's also the underground parking lot during certain hours. But this may be a question for the greater DPR team, if there's any potential to increase parking, or if we're going to be promoting more of those communal transportation options.
I can take that one, and Chelsea maybe for the project. I don't believe there's any additional parking slated as part of the project. And it is a busy, and there's a lot of people there. We currently, like Jessica said, have parking in and around the park, and they're metered parking, and there's also the lot you can pay for underground. Currently, there's no real plans right now to explore additional parking. I think we definitely encourage carpooling and public transportation to get to the park, but definitely noted as a note of interest maybe for future consideration. So thanks for that.
Great, thanks, Joe. All right, and so we have a comment in here about park use. And I know we've labeled this particular section of the park as an underutilized area. Can we talk a little bit about that? How do we know that this portion of the park is receiving less visitation or less use than other parts of the park? And that might be an operational question, which I could hand over to Sean, who helps to oversee Waterfront Park for us.
Yeah, just in general for regular park usage, which we monitor on a day-to-day basis, both through our special events, but regular operations, there's less visitation to the gardens compared to our civic green lawns, our playground and walkways in the park.
All right, thank you. We have a comment from John. He's asking if we're going to be looking at the children's area, which is on the other side of the county administration building, and the maintenance plan for some of the equipment we have out there. So Sean, this might be a great question for you too, is when it's time to start to replace surfaces and equipment, what's that process look like?
Yeah, I'm going to defer to our park ranger, Sam Alexander, who kind of oversees major maintenance projects and specific questions to the playground. So I will defer to him. He is on the call.
Great, thank you.
Hi there. So as far as playground surfacing, to answer the specific question, the playground surfacing is not going to be included in this project, but we have another major maintenance project that is in process right now to replace the topping of the surfacing. And any surfacing that would be on the new addition, we would be maintaining based on the maintenance procedures that the surfacing is called for. So whether it's re-gluing or anything like that, we would continue to maintain it as needed.
Thank you so much. Joe, did you have something else to add to that?
Oh yeah, I just wanted to add that, for like kind of preventative maintenance, right? Our staff is doing ongoing maintenance projects in the park to ensure, that the surfacing and any other, equipment that we have out there is safe, for the public to use. But we also start thinking about ahead of time, like the lifespan, whether it's surfacing or equipment, and start to plan for that. And a lot of that takes place, kind of almost in a 5-year window. Each year we're planning out what the next 5 years, what we anticipate will be a need. And we add projects like replacing surfacing, to like our major maintenance program, which allows us to make sure that the surfacing and other equipment, right, is up to par and is being, updated or replaced as needed. But planning definitely ahead for that stuff.
Great, thank you. We have a couple of questions related to the dog park. One of them is about surfacing at the dog park, and the other one is just about overall park operations related to that dog park. So I'll start with surfacing. Amy's asking if we would consider putting in 50% AstroTurf and 50% decomposed granite. And so I'll hand that one over to Chelsea.
Sure thing. So with the decomposed granite, just for clarification, that this is a hard material. It isn't going to be squishy or hard to walk on. And so it will be firm and stabilized. And so that's part of the attraction of having the dog park surfacing using that material. We don't currently plan to use AstroTurf at this time.
Chelsea, sorry to jump in. Hi, this is Deb Mosley, Chief of Development. Although we are not planning at this time, that is something that we can consider looking at. So we appreciate that comment and we will look into that.
Great, thank you, Deb. All right, we have a comment from Susan. This is regarding park operations as they relate to the dog park. How do you off-leash parks deal with dogs that might be problems to other dogs? Will the website answer this question? You know what? That's a great comment. I will figure out some content to include on the website regarding dog etiquette at our dog parks. But let's see, Sean, do you want to talk a little bit about that? Just maintenance of dog parks. This might be a good question for Sam as well.
Yeah, I'll kind of start, and I can allow Sam to also contribute. In general, we haven't finalized the dog park rules or regulations for regular use, but I know the county parks does have other dog parks in the county park system. So we would look to the existing dog parks on establishing rules for visiting to educate and encourage proper dog etiquette to make sure that, people are aware of what to do if there are problem animals or other things like that. Sam, did you have any other comments in regards to maintenance or usage of the dog park?
Just to mention that the dog park will be patrolled regularly by park rangers, security guards, sheriffs, 7 days a week. Yeah, we have best management practices for other dog parks. Park maintenance and customer service is a priority for parks. So we're going to fine tune the operational plan kind of as we go, since every location is different, to best serve the needs of the public.
Thanks, Sam. And I know there'll be signs that will be posted as well throughout all of the different recreational amenities. We have kind of like the rules of the game posted, so people can get the information they need there, as well as who to contact if there are any issues. But if you ever see something, please say something. Our park rangers are present during park hours, and we do have security 24/7. So definitely let us know if you see something, and we'll make sure that we take care of it and address it in a timely fashion. We have a comment here from Eduardo. This is a good question, I think, for our resource management team. The plan calls for shrub and ground cover as well as evergreen hedge. Could that be replaced by low water use using native plants? And then regarding concrete walkway, could that be a more permeable surface? So I'll hand that one over to Nicole.
Hi, yeah. So when we have any of the plants that are changed in our garden area, we are focusing always with the lens of conservation. That goes into this project, even in downtown, right? So some of those plants in that region, most of them in the garden are ornamental, so they will be replaced without detriment to the native environment. However, where we can enhance the areas, we will be putting in native species that can handle the decomposed granite. This area has been compacted for many generations now, so the soil isn't as adequate as it would be for if you went out into Ramona. So that's always something we want to consider when we put in shrubs, never want to put it so that it's just not going to survive. And you can see the oaks that surround Waterfront Park. We do put quite a big presence in there. In the native or in the dog park, we will not be putting oaks simply because they don't handle well with the dogs. However, where we can, we will. For the permeable surfaces, sorry, got the second question. For the permeable surfaces, we are also going to add in some permeable surfaces where we can. The decomposed granite walkways that are throughout Waterfront Park don't manage well when there are trees in that region because they soften up the decomposed granite. So where we can, we will. However, we want to make the walkways accessible as possible and as safe as possible.
Right, I know that lines up with our ADA transition plan to ensure that everybody has equal access to parks and different amenities on site. So, okay, so I know there was a comment about, seeing the bugs and the bees and the birds, and it sounds like we will still have plants and trees on site. It's just going to be a different looking area. But we'll continue to maintain all of the other vegetation that is thriving at Waterfront Park. All right, let's see here. So let me pull up the next question. Okay, here's another environmental question. In your environmental assessments, are you considering the fact that many native species, including owls, birds, and insects, visit this small garden? Most critically, this area is a key landing strip for migratory monarch butterflies and hosts the Hermes copper butterfly that is now listed as protected under the Endangered Species Act. So I'll hand that one back over to Nicole.
Yes, in our environmental assessment, we are always categorizing these heightened species throughout our parks throughout the county of San Diego, and that is included within the Waterfront Park. We have assessed the area, and where there are ornamental plants, we are trying to transition to a more beneficial species of plants and host species. We also will be working with construction to account for all the migratory birds that are within that pathway. So we never want to impact them more than we can, and we will be putting in mitigation measures to follow that procedure.
All right, thanks, Nicole. All right, Rebecca's saying there's 3 trolley stations within 2 blocks and a bus stop alongside the park. These should be promoted to park users. You are right. We will do a better job of promoting these different accessibility options to get to Waterfront Park and also to connect to other parks that have a little more green space than Waterfront Park might have. Based on its location, it is in a bit of a concrete jungle, but we are working really hard to make all of our parks more accessible to everybody who wants to come out and visit. And it's always our goal to encourage more people to spend quality time outside. So thank you for your passion about the environment and the city climate action plan. And we will take that to heart. We'll do a better job of promoting some of those rideshare options. All right, let's go to the next question here. Chris has a question regarding operations, and this is, with more usage, is there a plan to increase staffing with full-time county employees, such as park rangers, as opposed to contracted security? Now I'll hand this one over to Sean.
Yeah, so at this time, the staffing plan for Waterfront Park would remain the same. I think in the future, if there is a greater demand for additional staffing, that's definitely something that county parks would look at increasing as needed.
All right, and so remind me again, Sean, what are the hours for park staff on site right now?
So we do adjust different times during summer or peak season. We have staff on site until 7 p.m. Right now we have staff on site until 6 p.m. So our park rangers often start earlier than the operating hours and are here before 8 a.m. But our park information booth operates from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. daily. The park hours are from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. daily.
Perfect. And that's multiple staff members kind of patrolling the park during those open hours, and they work in tandem with the security, right?
That's correct. Yes, we have full-time staff, a number of different ones there every single day of the week, but also our part-time staff as well as contracted security.
Great, thank you. All right, and then Chelsea, this question is kind of more for you. It's asking, did we go door to door to or mail residents to get feedback about specifically the T-ball field? And how is that approved as part of the formal design plan?
Sure. So yes, we did mail flyers out to the community. We mailed over, I think it was 6,000. I think we just added another 4 to that. So we've mailed out close to 10,000 flyers out to the community. What we did is we used a bulk mailer process. So to ensure that residents who lived in the community, not just the owners, were able to receive the invitation to join us for these public meetings. And then we also did individual flyers as well for folks that weren't, that are interested, but not necessarily within the community. So we did do quite a bit of that, the mailer component. We didn't necessarily go door to door, but we did as best as we could with the size of our stakeholder group that we have. And then specifically around the T-ball field, that was part of our discussion a little bit earlier, but that was part of our survey question that we had, but also there's a lot of other considerations that we have before finalizing our amenities for any new park amenity, park project, excuse me. And so there's a long process of looking at our constraints, our size needs, our availability to accommodate the different sizes of things, the different interest groups. So there's quite a bit of things that go into just the design component. And we have the public outreach as part of that to hear from you all about what community amenities that you would like to see. But then there's also the constraints and also the other parts of our working with our elected officials who represent you all. So there's quite a bit of feedback coming in, with a variety of different sources for that.
All right, thank you. And then during your distribution, I know you said you sent this out to about 9,000 people in the area, and I believe that was via zip code for folks who lived in the immediate vicinity. Did you also include local businesses with that?
We did, actually. We did quite a bit of extensive research to reach out to the local businesses, different hotel groups, the adjacent community, local businesses. And we have an email listserv. If you're interested in participating in that, feel free to send me an email and I can send you any updates as we have for the project. We have, I believe it's over 200 folks that are interested in getting those email updates as well as those flyers. So we did reach out to the local business community as well to garner feedback and invite them to participate in this venue.
Okay. And speaking of the park design, kind of stepping back to your last response that you gave to us. So Maria's asking the public opinion poll of favored walkways and seating first. I'm sorry, basketball and then dog park second. Why then is most of the space given over to the less popular pickleball or table tennis? And so I know there's of course sizing, like dimensions that have to be met for specific types of amenities, but I will let you speak to that as our project manager.
Yeah, that's exactly it, Jessica. So thanks for that. So that is true. So we looked into all the different amenities that were most interested from the survey. But then we also started to put the pieces together and realized that there was some spacing available for different amenities based on the interest, but also based on the size availability of all of the different amenities that we're going to be putting in this 1.5 acre section of the park. So there's going to be a lot going on. It's going to be action packed and a lot of fun.
Thank you. All right, so now I was saying this portion of the park is relatively new and taxpayer money was invested in it, and residents do currently enjoy this area. Why undo this investment and tear down many trees that are finally maturing rather than creating an entirely new recreational park at a brownfield in downtown? So I know there's a couple of questions in here. I know we are still saving a lot of the vegetation for the property, and I can let Nicole maybe speak to what the vegetation plan is for the space. But also, I know we talked a little bit about the use of this area, and based on our park ranger observation, it looks like this specific area just got a lot less traffic than the rest of the park. Considering how many people use the park, we wanted to make sure more people had a chance to explore more options. And so I know this is an effort to try to take advantage of that interest in recreation and use that underutilized space. But Nicole, do you want to talk a little bit about the trees and how we're saving them, and then how we're going to be trying to replace that canopy that might be potentially affected?
Yeah. So for this project, there are a few trees that must be removed. However, we are seeking to have zero impact, so a net zero loss of trees within the area. As you look into Waterfront Park, you can see there is a plethora of trees in the perimeter. None of those will be touched, as well as within the walkway. It will just be where we are adding in the basketball court and the amenities where we can. In the dog park, where we can keep the trees, we will be keeping the trees. Along with the whole DPR motivation, we do have a comprehensive tree program where we plant hundreds of trees every single year where it is most beneficial. We have an arborist and agricultural scientist on staff that seeks to pursue involving the tree canopy and growing that as much as possible within the San Diego region.
Great, thanks, Nicole. And now Chelsea wanted to potentially jump in to discuss some of the other areas that we looked at for those recreational amenities. So Chelsea, I'll hand this back to you.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so just wanted to do a quick recap. Part of the feasibility study was that we did look at different, vacant lots. We looked at different areas. We looked at taking over maybe some potential parking areas that were used for surface parking. We looked at potentially partnering with the Port of San Diego. We did look at a lot of different locations before settling on the northeast quadrant of Waterfront Park. So that was part of our feasibility study that we started back in 2019. So did want to just touch on that we did look at other locations and found that this was the most suitable location that would have the highest access to the residents in the community.
Great, thank you. This next question is about, this is a good one from Dave. Will you be preserving, relocating, or removing the existing art structure? So what happens to the art structure once it's moved from the specific location?
Sure. So I'll jump in. So that we will be preserving and relocating the existing art structure. Our current plan is to have it located within the northeast quadrant of the park. So we're just going to be shifting it a little bit out of the way where it currently is where the t-ball field is. So certainly can't have our art in the middle of the t-ball field. So we're going to be relocating it carefully, but it will still be located within that northeast quadrant of the park.
Great. Thanks, Chelsea. All right, so here's a really good operational question. What's going to happen to that t-ball field when games aren't being played? Can other people access that open space, or is it reserved solely for those games? So I'll hand that one over to Sean.
Yeah, thanks. This is a great question. So the field will be available for open play to general public when not being actively used for games. We do plan to program it in the sense of having equipment rentals for the general public to use and play on. But we are also looking to some of the more traditional forms of programming, like we do at other parks, some instructed lit courses or classes, leagues, organizational play. But also when it isn't being used specifically for t-ball or baseball and those sorts of things, it would be open like a grass lawn of sorts for picnicking and more passive recreation as well.
Awesome, thank you. As a reminder, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to pop them in the Q&A panel and we'll do our best to answer them. We had a comment here from one of our panelists. Joe wants to speak a little bit about staffing for this property. So I will hand it over to her.
Thanks, Jess. I just wanted to kind of add on to what staff shared earlier and just clarify that as part of the additions of these amenities, we are looking to ask for additional staffing, both full-time and part-time, to help because obviously these amenities will bring in a lot of new visitors. And so we will definitely need some additional staff to assist us with not just the maintenance, but those customer service kind of areas of whether it's reserving the t-ball or just running some activities on the court, etc. So definitely additional park staff, not contracted staff, which I believe was the question earlier, is part of the ask as part of the construction of these amenities.
Great, thank you. We'll give folks a minute to potentially ask some additional questions. Joe, is it possible to pull back up that timeline that we have, just so we can show kind of when this project is going to kick off?
Sure, give me 1 second. I'll pull that right up.
Okay. And then I can speak a little to the purpose of these meetings. You know, we always value your feedback. Your opinion are so important to us. And while some of those really great suggestions may not work for one specific park, we take that stuff to heart and we see what other park properties we have close by or within our network where we can make that stuff happen. So roller skating is one of those options. We realize that there's a bit of a deficit in San Diego, and we definitely want to help address that. And so I know the team is actively looking for ways to make sure that we're catering to that recreational population. So sometimes it may seem like we're not answering your questions or we're not hearing you. We do hear you. We're taking it all into consideration based on all of the different people that have provided feedback. So please just continue to share your opinions with us. I would encourage you also to open up a line of communication with Chelsea if you haven't already. Be part of her distribution list, contact her directly, kind of talk through some of those main things. And we'll see what we can do to help address everything, moving forward. All right, so here's that timetable. Chelsea, do you want to jump on and just explain that one more time?
Sure. Actually, Joe, if you could go ahead and go to slide 10. We're just going to do a quick recap of our next steps. And then we can hopefully take any last questions, and then we'll close out. So we have, as I mentioned, we have our Board of Supervisors hearing January 26th. It's coming up here. And then we have our bid and award, our contractor, and start that construction in spring. And then that takes a little bit of time. And then we'll hopefully award that construction contract in summer. It takes 6 months. We'll have that construction period, and then we plan to have a ribbon cutting at the end of the year.
Thanks, Chelsea. All right, and then one more thing too is parks are kind of like living, breathing spaces. So what you see right now is what the park is going to be in the very near future. What it might be in 10 years could be totally different, and that's based on the recreational needs of San Diego at that time. So I hear that there's definitely an interest in preserving a nice native garden. And I know that there's going to be a lot of effort put toward, installing a lot of native plants and maintaining them and making sure they're healthy. So there is a place for people to have that mental reprieve they need from you're right, a very busy urban area, David. So, but you know what, if you find that once all of this stuff is done and you would like to see some additional improvements to Waterfront Park, again, please tell us, because we take all of that feedback to mind when we start looking at ways to improve our properties. We look at what folks have asked for, and we try to address those asks. So thank you for your feedback there. Do we have any more questions coming up? It looks like we've kind of got to most of them. Oh, here's a question from Chris. Long shot question, any chance of leaning on the Port and the Hyatt to open the rooftop tennis courts at the convention center while adding more active opportunities downtown? Great question. Chelsea, do you want to take this one about kind of the different options we looked at when we were working on expansion?
Sure, yeah, so we did actually have conversations with the Port and the Hyatt and invited them to the table and tried to get some coordination effort there. And that's why we, part of the reason why we selected the Waterfront Park area. But that is a good idea, and something a little bit outside of what we can do right now, but definitely something that we could potentially look at for the future.
Great, thank you. And we have, this is a good question about recreation on site. So cultural activities, and I'll hand this one over to Sean, because I know Waterfront Park has, a lot of pre-planned activities. There's workshops you can join. They've got yoga, which is wonderful. Cultural activities also can take place, and it's also at the request of residents. So Sean, do you want to speak to that? Do we see any cultural activities in the future, or is that something that could potentially be prioritized once this new area opens up?
Yeah, absolutely. We don't have a formal activity or recreation programming plan at this time, but like Jessica was explaining, we very much want to take into what the community wants and what the community needs. And if that includes more cultural programming, that's absolutely something we can look into and even discuss further for additional concepts of what that could look like exactly.
Cool, thank you. And for those of you who aren't familiar with our seasonal program guide, right now it's month to month because of the pandemic. We just want to make sure that everything that we're offering is safe and is group appropriate. But if you go to our website, sdparks.org, and click on participate, there's a link to seasonal programs. And that guide is updated every single month. It has free activities that you can participate in at county parks and preserves across San Diego. So from the coast to the mountains, the valleys, the desert, literally everything. Right now, the list is a little smaller than it typically is, but usually on a given month, we have dozens of free ways for you to participate and kind of escape into nature. Okay. David's asking, doesn't the whole of the park already serve as a dog park? Great question. Sean, do you want to talk about dogs at Waterfront Park?
Yeah, as the park stands now, all dogs are required to be on a leash and walk with their owners. The dog park would be off leash, right? So it gives a different opportunity for park users to bring their dogs and use the park in that way.
Great. Okay. And Charles, I know you're concerned about, that the feedback isn't being considered. Keep in mind, I wish we had more people attend these live meetings that kind of spoke from all different angles. I know we had about 365 overall responses, and so the team kind of took all of that into account. I wish we had 365 people join these meetings so we could hear from everybody. That's just unfortunately not the case, but we will post the recording of this to our website afterward, and we will continue to keep you in the loop, especially if you're on Chelsea's distribution list. All right, Maria is asking if there's going to be fences around the ball courts to keep the balls from hitting pedestrians. That is a really good question. All right, I'll hand that over to Chelsea.
Thanks, Maria, for asking that. So we will have some fences around the pickleball court area, and then we'll have a fence on the, the Pacific Highway side of the basketball court to prevent any balls from going out on Pacific Highway. And then we'll also have some fence and shrubs behind the T-ball area. So trying to make sure all of the different amenities stay within their confined zones and prevent any issues. So yes, we will be including some fences as part of the project.
All right, David's asking, why not develop one of the green fields just west of this area? Hand that over to Chelsea.
Yeah, so we did look at the green field west of the area. You're referencing, I think, the other section of the Waterfront Park. And we did decide that this was the best location for the park amenities, specifically because of the lack of activation for this area, and the grass areas are currently used for programming that we have of all different varieties and types at Waterfront Park. And if needed, we can have one of our operations teams speak to that.
Cool. And I'm also happy to offer suggestions if you're looking for a specific type of park. We oversee over 130 properties around San Diego, and we've always got something going on. There's some properties that are best for certain seasons, and just everything from a campground to a skate park. We've got it all. So if you're looking for recreation recommendations or trail recommendations, I'm happy to send you a list that's customized for you. I'm going to send my email address here in the chat. Please feel free to email me. Just working in marketing, I happen to know most of our properties, so I can probably put together kind of a fun short list for you. And we'd love to see you out at some of our other locations. All right, any additional questions, comments coming through? Oh, here's one from Mel. Let's see here. Is the park planning involved with previous plans mentioned to make a park all the way to the water? Not that I'm for that, but just remember hearing it. Would also like to voice opinions there as well. So good question. So Chelsea, did we look at expanding Waterfront all the way to the waterfront, the actual waterfront?
I believe with Harbor Drive there, we weren't able to consider that at this time. I believe there's some coordination there with working with the Port of San Diego and what that might look like. That was part of our discussion. Not necessarily expanding Waterfront Park, but potentially putting some recreation amenities on the port side, on the other side of Harbor Drive there. And we ended up, obviously, with the concept plan that we have now, but we haven't necessarily looked at abandoning Harbor Drive as part of this project. But that is an interesting idea.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in, Chelsea, and just add a little bit of flavor to that. For this project and the hurdles that would have to be, I guess, navigated, it was not, the timing was just not going to work out. But it's been made clear by many of you that there is a potential vision, kind of grand scale thing for that in the future to perhaps extend the park all the way to the bay. But that would be a partnership, obviously, that would involve many public agencies, not just the county and city and the port, but a sort of a visionary thing that will take a lot more contemplation and time, I think. But we're certainly aware of it. It's out there, and we haven't lost sight of it.
Great, thank you, Brian. All right, and then kind of an operational, I guess, observation. Probably Sean and Sam could speak to this one, but during the pandemic, did you see an increase in park use, or did you see fewer people at parks? Can you talk a little bit about just, overall usership?
Yeah, I think, initially, while there were still stay-at-home orders, we definitely did see a decrease in park usage in some ways. But shortly thereafter, as things started kind of normalize in the pandemic, we did see, kind of a back to a normalcy as far as a steady increase of visitation and consistently using of our park here at Waterfront Park.
Okay, thank you. All right, David's asking, when will the crosswalk in this area be completed? It's been nearly a year. Good question. I believe that's a Chelsea question. I'll hand that over to her.
Yeah, so the crosswalk is not part of the project. It is, I believe, part of the City of San Diego project that they're working on. So I can't necessarily speak to it directly, but that's something that we can talk with them about and see if there is a way to expedite and prioritize that as part of kind of giving the whole area the much needed love and care that it needs.
Great, thank you. And just to refresh my memory, when did we officially start looking at revitalizing this particular space within the park?
So we started the effort in December of 2019. That's when the feasibility study started.
Okay, cool. I know Charles had some really great comments here, so thank you, Charles, for sharing your opinion here. I really do appreciate it. Chelsea, I'm assuming there's no further assessments from this point. We already have our design plan and we're moving forward.
That's correct. So we're wrapping up design now. Maybe a few minor changes here and there as we finalize those construction documents and wrap up that design and hopefully move forward into construction.
Good stuff. Thank you. All right, I don't see any additional open questions. If you think of anything else, again, Chelsea's email is in the chat, so please copy that over and send it over to her. If you want recommendations for cool things to do in county parks, I'm happy to help you out with that. Thank you so much for letting me host the Q&A portion for tonight, and I'll hand this back over to Chelsea.
Great, thanks, Jessica. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us this evening and for just sitting with us and asking your questions and giving us opportunity to answer them. We really do appreciate being here with you. And Brian, if you have any closing comments, we can end with you, or I can go ahead and close this out. All right. Oh, go ahead, Brian.
Apologize for the technical difficulties there. I just want to thank everybody again for joining tonight, sharing thoughts and comments. This is ongoing, and we are going to be actively communicating, through the next steps and through the construction cycle as well, and doing our best to make sure that the rest of the park is usable throughout the entire construction period. Because it's just such a valuable place for people to visit downtown. I want to thank the team as well, for putting this together and making yourselves available. And again, here's Chelsea's information and our website. If you have any other questions or thoughts you want to share, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Thanks again, and good night, everyone.